and you are listening to episode number 12. Coming up, part 2 of a 3-part series with Ray Tyler of Rosecreek Farms. Hear how he and his wife dealt with the gut-wrenching news that their daughter had stage 4 cancer and basically how it turned their lives upside down. And a few tips about going to the market from Stephanie Turner of the Greenwood Uptown Market here in the upstate of South Carolina. Plus, we're all growing tomatoes. Should you string them up, do the weave, wire mesh, or heck, just let them grow? Hey guys, enjoy this next episode of the Farmers Market Podcast.
Get ready for this.
Wow, I am blown away by the response I've been getting on Facebook.
Welcome to a brand new episode of
the Upstate's Farmers Market Podcast.
The following program is for adult audiences only.
You are listening to
Hey y'all, thanks for having me on the Farmers Market Podcast.
Relax and Enjoy.
We are one of the few tea growing farms in the United States.
Hi, this is Chris Thurman from BioWay Farm.
Hi, this is Kristen with Earth and Organic.
Hi, this is Mark Jones from Cedar Falls Farm.
Thanks for listening.
And now your host.
Great day, everybody. My name is Stefan, and you're listening to the Farmers Market Podcast, the show that talks to farmers, homesteaders, beekeepers, small business owners, and much, much more. We are proudly based here in the upstate of South Carolina, where we keep it fresh and we keep it local. Here we talk about all things farmers market related. Now be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Soundcloud, Stitcher, or YouTube, and become a supporter of scafarms.com. That's the home base for My Farm Online and home of the Farmers Market Podcast. Now, please share with all your friends on Facebook and other social channels, and let me know if there's a local farmer or local business that you would like to hear on the show. Now, today's show features the second part of a 3-part series with Ray Tyler of Rosecreek Farms. Now, if you'll remember, Rosecreek Farms is based in Selmer, Tennessee, and they do a massive amount of production. Now, feel free to check out episode number 11 for the first part and the introduction to Ray and how he got started. Now, we pick up the story on how Ray and his wife started down the path of, quote, living the dream of farming, and then something unexpected happened that would change their lives forever. Here you go with part 2 of Ray Tyler and Rosecreek Farms.
When we first started out in 2009, the idea is that we were going to have time with the family, time with the kids. We had this idea that, if you build it, they'll come. So we thought, we'll just grow all the stuff and people would just be pounding down the doors to buy it. And that didn't work out very well for us. And so what ended up happening is in the spring of 2015, our 6-year-old daughter came down with stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma cancer. This was at the height of, our chicks were fixing to come in. Wow. Our greenhouse was packed to the gills. We had our CSA sold. Our daughter, thank God, is healed. And we, are very grateful and thank God every day for her health. But that spring and summer was definitely, it was a wake-up call, because what I found by the end of 2015 is here we are, where we're trying to make this life for our family, that we have time to raise them, time to, be around, and I found myself having less time, in 2015 for my family than I did when I was driving 4 hours a day,
Wow.
Any business owner and farming, the work never stops, right?
No, it's never ending.
You can work from sun up to sundown in the field, come home and be consumed with emails, marketing, ideas, research. I do a ton of research because there's not a lot of good growing information for us southern farmers. And so I found that something had to give. At the end of the day, we have to live meaningful lives on purpose. When it comes to raising children, you got one shot. And so many older people regret not being around for their children. And regret that is a real emotion. Regret is not something that you can go and fix. It is something that you can change for the future, but you cannot. Regret is a terrible thing. And so many older people, parents that I talk to, I enjoy talking to older people. Learn a tremendous amount from people who've gone through life. And so many of them go, if I were to change one thing, it was I wish I had more time, spent more time with my family. I spent more time with my children, sitting down, reading them books, being with them, having time. But instead, I wasted my life, doing frivolous things, or, some of them will say, my business just took me over, because a lot of our business owners, we're doing our business for our family. But what we don't realize is that children don't need things. They don't want stuff. What they want more than anything is your time.
No, that's right.
Time. You could buy them a castle full of toys, and they'll still be starving for your time. We're finding like the less toys we have laying around the house, and the more time we give them, our children are more content, and they're more happy, and they're more fulfilled. And so that's what I found myself at the end of 2015 of, something's got to go. Like, we set out to have this lifestyle, but we found ourselves the complete opposite, completely consumed. And, what's even worse is we weren't even making money. Like, it's this vicious cycle of, like, you get to a certain scale, and it's like, you always have to get that more implement, get more land for that implement, get more chickens, more chicken trackers, more land. There's no end to that. And we watch farmers get in that hamster wheel trap of like, you got to get more because you got to pay for it, and it never ends, right? So something had to go. So my wife and I had a lot of just heart-to-heart talks of like, at the end of the day, having a successful farm means nothing if my family is starving for my time.
Right.
So we made some hard decisions. We completely sold our animal operation, which was a huge leap of faith for me because I built this business to me from nothing, bootstrapped it.
That's hard. That's difficult because it's your baby. I mean, that's like giving away a baby. I mean, you're starting from scratch. You really built something. Wow.
Yep. And then the same thing with the produce. We really enjoyed the produce, but we never could grow good produce. And so we just went, we're not doing a good job. So let's just grow on 1 acre, drop a tractor. And I invested in education, time in that, and a lot of money, time and money that I didn't have. But my wife and I knew that we had to do it completely different than the way we were doing it. So 2016, we no animals. We tended the ground by hand, permanent beds, and we had been. Since that first year of going to farmers market in 2010, we had a really good demand for lettuce because no one else was doing it.
Right.
So we, throughout this whole time, for that 5 years, we've been trying to have lettuce year round, and so we've been, trying methods every summer on trying different varieties and different techniques of like how can we get this to work because we knew we could sell it. We just had to figure out how to grow it.
Right.
So I knew by the end of 2015, I think that was my first year that I actually had lettuce, I think, every week.
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of it, but I'd done it enough where I felt like, all I need to do is just really focus on that. So 2016, we tripled our gross income on produce, made the most money personally we ever had made farming, and we made this 8-hour cap of line, so I would start at 5 a.m. in the morning, in the summertime, and then I was done by 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would take a nap. I would have time for the kids.
What's a nap? Who did that? That's crazy.
I know.
Wow.
It was just crazy. And so at the end of the year, we were like, obviously there was problems. There's always problems in farming. There's weather. But we had a lot more wins than successes. And that's the key to farming. Like, at the end of the year, you have to look back and go, you know what? We had a lot more successes than we did failures. And the problem in the previous years past is I had more failures than successes, more pain than pleasure. And so I think we basically have set up our farm for us to win. You know, again, the goal of farming is not to get rich, but it's to have a meaningful life and time for your family. It's really important.
It's definitely lifestyle. So leading up to from 2009 up until 2016, 2015, you were basically spinning your wheels like a hamster, just doing everything, and then you changed in 2015, and going into 2016, you feel like you had your best year ever in terms of time, lifestyle, financial, and you focused on an acre of your land and focused on basically one type of production.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. That's amazing.
Very, very, very purposeful. Got rid of a lot of crops that we could not grow well. Again, we haven't figured out how to grow everything in the South. But we figured out those few things that we could grow and sell. That's the key thing. There's actually things that we're actually good at growing, but we just can't sell it, and so we just don't grow it anymore. You know, maybe we grow a little bit because it's important as farmers to not get too caught up in only selling. Like you have to grow. Farmers have to grow things that they enjoy growing, and so. But again, you don't want to grow 2 beds of onions if you can't sell it.
Right. No, I totally agree. And the lettuce, the funny thing about the lettuce, you mentioned this, that nobody at the market has lettuce, and I'm finding that out. We have several big markets around here, and we have, there's a lot of smaller ones that kind of feed into the big one, but we have what's called the Greenville market, the Greenville Saturday market, and it's thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people show up at this market. And every farmer that is big and has a lot of volume in production, they want to be in that market because you can sell thousands of dollars worth of produce within a couple of hours. But what I've noticed is it's the lettuce at even the smaller markets and the bigger ones. There's not a lot of people that are growing lettuce, and it's like one of the most highly consumable produce products that you could ever have. If you go in a grocery store, lettuce is everywhere, and people will buy it. It's crazy. I didn't know when I took my lettuce to the market, I was the only one there. Now, it was a small market, but I was the only one there with lettuce. And I thought, well, you can have tomatoes, but you're going to have something with the tomatoes. You might as well buy the lettuce. So it was kind of an easy sell because you can have all of these vegetables, which I don't grow, but this farmer next to me does. Buy his stuff, but you're going to need some lettuce.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely, and so I think that's one thing that we realized early on, and that's really probably what really helped us that year because we knew that, but we never had a chance to really focus and see how far we could take that. And I think a lot of, again, not every single market has a good market for lettuce, but I think on average, let's see, I wanted to find this number here, and just in the U.S. alone in 2017, the lettuce production in the U.S. is $1.5 billion just for lettuce.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
And so that's a lot of lettuce. And so I think that farmers, it's the way I look at lettuce. It's like if you're going to start a business, it's about what do you want to produce, and then what will sell, what will people buy, and most really smart business people are going to really focus on one or two things, and they're going to get that going, and hopefully get that thing making some cash flow. What I call it is that cash flow flywheel. Right. So you get that flywheel. Once it gets going and you get your system down, then you can add other things to it. But, trying to get, 20 different flywheels going at the same time is going to be difficult. Some people can, depending on what it is. And I think farming is the same thing. It's why monoculture is so common, because it's a lot more efficient for farmers to be profitable if they focus on just a few crops.
Right.
Now,
no, that makes sense.
It's not exactly sustainable, but I think if you're going to get started in a farm, you do need to be thinking about, not just one, but maybe doing just 10, and maybe focusing on, can you grow one or two crops year-round, especially if you're going to go in like a wholesale market or any kind of markets. People like consistency. So, if you're going to have tomatoes, you kind of need to have tomatoes consistently for at least those 8 to 10 weeks. When it comes to lettuce, because I believe in most of the U.S., you can grow lettuce 52 weeks a year if you have some kind of protected structure. And so, to me, it just made sense for us we need to have lettuce year-round, because I can get really good contracts. I can get into wholesale, into grocery stores. When it comes to a farmer's market, a lot of people, the people we are creatures of habit. And so if you have lettuce at the farmer's market every week and you train people to buy lettuce from you and not a grocery store, they do go to a grocery store.
Right.
They know, well, I'm not going to get lettuce because I can get that at Rosecreek.
Right.
And so you get people trained. That is how you can really dial in and not only dial in your production, but really getting consistent clients. And that's what it comes to business, is that it does do you no good to get a client here and there every now and then. You need cash flow week after week after week. And
right.
so for us, we've just really focused on that.
No, that makes total sense. Now, people can find Rosecreek Farms where? I mean, obviously you're at the market there. In I think you said, is it Selma? You're in the local market there in Selma, or is it a different market?
No, we're actually in Jackson. It's about 45 minutes south. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So people can find you at the farmers market in Jackson, and where else can they find Rosecreek Farm products?
We're in about 3-4 grocery stores at the moment. In Jackson, we're in one in Memphis, and then we're in one in Mississippi, and actually we're in 2 grocery stores in North Mississippi.
Wow.
And,
okay.
A few restaurants, however, that's dwindling, and we also have an online store via Shopify, and that's been really growing well for us. I think that's a market strain that I think a lot of farmers should be looking at. Because I think, if you got someone like Amazon buying Whole Foods, it should tell you where consumers are going.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very good point. And then you also do a CSA. Is that correct? Yep,
we do. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, how many?
And then just 50 members. It's really small.
Okay. But that's good. That's sustainable. That's easy to manage, and it's sustainable. So I've heard some folks talk about 400 member CSAs, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, that's intense.
There you have it, part 2 with Ray Tyler and Rosecreek Farms. What an amazing story. Now be sure to check them out online. And of course, they're on Facebook and Instagram. In part 3, you get to hear Ray talk about the secret to his success and how he's sharing it with the world. I mean, a lot of the information that he's giving out, I'm using on my own farm. Now, most small-scale farmers end up selling their produce for the first time at a farmer's market. I mean, it's where we all kind of start. I love going to farmer's markets in my area and in different areas, and I like selling my veggies there as well. Now, recently, I had a chance to talk with the Greenwood Uptown Market Coordinator, Stephanie Turner, and she discussed 3 things market goers should be aware of when going to the farmer's market.
One of the main tips about farmers market is that, it's an ephemeral, event. So you need to be flexible. If you're going to the farmer's market for kale and they only have chard or whatever it is, be flexible. Try something new. Talk to the farmer. Learn about that product, because if you're really not familiar with it, they've grown it, or they work with someone that grows it and they know about it. They know how to use it. So don't be shy at the farmer's market, I guess, would be my biggest tip. Make sure you talk to the vendors. You can really learn a lot about what the products are and how to use them and how to cook them, how to store them if you're not sure. What should I do with this when I get home? Does it go on the counter? Does it go in the fridge? How do I keep this fresh for a little while? They know that. That's their business. So ask those questions and go early, because the best selection usually gets gone early. So make your plans to get there as close to opening as possible. Bring your reusable bags. That'll help all of us cut down on the amount of plastic and so forth that we use. And like I said, just be flexible and talk and enjoy the fact that you can learn from the person that you're shopping with. And most of the times they're excited to share all that information with you.
There will be more from Stephanie and other market coordinators in future episodes, and be sure to check out the Greenwood Uptown Market at uptowngreenwood.com for more on their times and availability and who the vendors are and what they're all about. Now let's talk tomatoes for a minute or two. My dad grew tomatoes, and he grows tomatoes to this day, but I started growing tomatoes about 2 years ago when I first started. And although there's been much written on growing tomatoes, it's always a matter of experience and actually doing it for yourself. Now, there's always the question on what is the best method of growing tomatoes, and I will say it depends on the variety, but I've had my share of tomato troubles. 2 years ago, I started out with Sun Gold cherry tomatoes because they were highly recommended. I believe Curtis Stone recommended them, or there was a couple other people, but I started out with them. And I also have grown Pisano tomatoes and beefsteak. Pisanos are more like a Marzano tomato, more like for canning and, sauces and that kind of stuff. But what we are going to talk about are all the methods of managing the tomato plant once they start to grow. You can string them up on lines. There's a lot of professional growers that do this. You can trellis them with the Florida weave technique. I've seen this done with field tomatoes. And then there is the cattle grate method. Well, I say cattle grate. It's basically a mesh wire panel, and it's something which I may try this season. Curtis Stone has a great video out on YouTube called How to Manage Intensive Tomatoes. It's got 100,000 plus views. And basically what you're doing is you are running a string from an overhead wire that runs on the kind of the same path and the same line as your tomato bed. You gently weave the tomato around the line as it grows. Now, Curtis goes into more detail about how to prune, and we'll save that for another episode. But I tried this method. I tried this method with my Sun Gold tomatoes, and there was about a week where I couldn't prune them. I believe I was away from the house or away from the farm, and it quickly got out of hand. I mean, it was like a jungle inside my small little hoop house. It was just a mess. And not only that, the flowers were not getting pollinated as well as they could. So I had a lot of flowers that just weren't turning into fruit. Needless to say, I did the same thing a year later, but with a different tomato variety. I used the Pisano and the beefsteak. And for whatever reason, the beefsteak just did not turn out. I think it was the variety and the seed I had. Just did not turn out the way I thought it would be. I had more room. I had planned that out, but it just didn't work for me. I don't know if I was doing something wrong, but needless to say, I managed them a lot better. I just didn't get near the amount of production. I haven't tried this method out before, but I've heard it discussed a lot on Facebook, and that's the Florida weave. It's a process of weaving baler twine in and out of the tomato plants and connecting them either rebar or T-posts with the string. As the plants get bigger, you continue to weave up. It seems to be the least expensive way of managing tomatoes, especially out in the field. And if you have a large amount of plants and you really want to do a lot of volume. Now, the M.I. Gardener, he's got a great video. It's got 114,000 plus views. He has a great video out there, and he explains it in detail. There's also another guy. He's the Texas Prepper. He's got 88,000 views, and it's It's pretty neat how they've done that. I've seen the weave method done before, or a similar method of trellising at City Roots Farm down in Columbia. So I know that it works, and it's a great way, and it's relatively easy the way they've described it. There are plenty of videos out there, but these two seem to be the ones that I enjoy watching, and they're very thorough. Now, there's another method of using what I would call cattle grates. Someone posted a question on the Facebook group, and it caught my eye. What really caught my eye was not only the picture of using the wire panels, but there was this amazing view of a mountain in the background. If you have a chance, I want you to check out Tanya's Kuchengarten on Facebook. Now, Kuchengarten is that's a German pronunciation, but she's actually in Austria. She grows a market garden in the Tyrolean Alps, located in Austria. The views are just amazing. And when she grows tomatoes, she uses these panels. Now, I thought about fencing, to give some kind of rigidity to the plant, or to give rigidity for the plants as they're growing, but not the panels. I haven't thought about that. Some people call them cattle panels. Other people say hog panels. I think it just depends on the spacing. But regardless, the function is the same. You use the panels as a rigid place for the tomatoes to kind of grow up in and out of those different spaces. Now, the folks over at Dripping Springs Farms uses the panels as well, and their rows just look awesome. Kathy swears by them. So if you get a chance, go check out Dripping Springs Farms and check out their Facebook page and ask her about the tomato plants. That it's really an amazing site, and she says they've been doing this for years. So really cool to see all the different things. And there you have it, just a few ways to grow tomatoes once they've germinated. Now, I'll have more in the future on pruning and caring for them. But for now, I hope you have some kind of new ideas, or maybe just reinforce the ideas. There's probably, I wouldn't say there's a ton of methods, but there are a few methods out there that are being used, and all of them are creating and generating production. And I guess it comes down to time, money. It comes down to effectiveness and what you're comfortable in utilizing. I'm a big believer in experimenting with a lot of things, but when it comes to, once something works, then you should probably stick with it until it doesn't work anymore, and then you try something new. Or you can experiment on your own if you've got the time and the money, and that's usually the caveat that catches most of us. We just don't have the time or the money. I want to thank my guests today, Ray Tyler with Rosecreek Farms and Stephanie Turner with the Greenwood Uptown Market. Be sure to check them out online and share this episode with everybody you know. Your support as a listener is key to this podcast. Please leave a comment, share this link, share this podcast and episode with somebody you know, and most importantly, go out and support your local farms and farmers. Until the next time, my name is Stefan, and you've been listening to the Farmers Market Podcast. Keep it fresh, keep it local.
When the sun goes down tonight.
If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.